Another day, another aneurysm. Oh, wait, my audio controls are fucked again. Wait a second. There, that should be better. Alright. Another day, another aneurysm. Let's react to Sir Sick. I got my dinner here as well.
What the hell is an EO-most? Oh, wait, sorry, that's 10-most. Ah, that makes more sense. Ooh, and 10-most what? Delicious whiskies? Ways to explode a humans? Well, I'll be glad of anything as long
I fucking love the whiskey jokes. They're hilarious.
as it's not 10 most stupidest proofs of X dumbass thing. Because that would be real. Exactly what it's going to be, isn't it? Damn it.
Welcome to our channel.
Wait a goddamn second. That's the fucking, what's his name, man, from the movie channel thing. Honest Trailers, yeah, that's it. What the hell is he doing here? Oh, right, of course, it's AI, isn't it? Well, shit, is this okay? Because there's one of two things going on here. Either someone has basically made a voice out of the extensive catalogue of content that he has worked on, which is like super messed up, or he/someone who has somehow got the rights to do so have allowed this to be made.
Yeah, honestly, there should be laws for that. Like the laws protecting, like, sports stars and their likeness. There really should. You should be able to copyright your own voice.
And frankly, what a terrible idea. They can make you say any stupid shit, and you just know that they will. And, well, I've just thought of it. There is a third option. He did this on purpose and didn't have any problem with the bollocks we are about to hear. But frankly, that's just too depressing to even consider.
Today, we're diving into one of the most profound questions humanity has ever asked.
Is Sir Sick actually handsome, famous, and good at the sex? Well,
He is the most handsome eldritch being. Of course he is.
of course, the first two are easy. The scholars already answered that with, well, look at him. But being good at the sex,
The scholars, guys. The scholars already answered it.
that one is harder. Question to answer. I mean, what does it even mean to be good, or at, or sex? Nobody knows, and they never will. Just like what
I bet his wife does.
the is.
Is Mrs. Sick his wife? Girlfriend? Fiance? I'm not sure.
Does God exist?
I don't know if does God exist is actually, profound. Like, it's not actually something that I think is really particularly mind-blowing or whatever. The answer may or may not be. Seems to me it's either a yes or a no, and that's about it. Now, the characteristics of any particular god could be more interesting, but even then, what I find profound is the real question. How do you know if you've run out of invisible ink? That shit keeps me up at night.
While beliefs vary widely, many argue that there are compelling reasons to believe in a higher power.
Yeah, but do you really want to listen to those guys? I hear those many people believe
It is pretty much like it is backed by scientific evidence that the driving force behind religion is we don't know. So let's make up this solution.
all sorts of stupid shit. Many people believe that Friday the 13th is a good movie franchise. Many people believe that breaking a mirror means you have to pay for that mirror. And of course, many people believe that if a black cat crosses your path, you shouldn't immediately eat that cat. Many people are fucking weird.
Here are the top 10 infallible proofs that God exists.
Alright, let's get into this. And here's hoping for movie guy's sake, these aren't actually extremely fallible and just embarrassingly stupid. And then he has to live with the shame as such a terrible piece of content existing for the rest of his life that he will definitely ever fucking hear about. I mean, hint, hint, make him hear about it, eh? Yeah.
At number 10, we have the fine-tuning of the universe.
Of course, the fine-tuning argument. An argument with so many...
I second that. The fine-tuning argument is only compelling to people who don't know the first fucking thing about how the universe and biology works. Because I guarantee you, anybody who does know how all those things work are not gonna sit there and say that it's so fine-tuned that it's perfect. Like, it's not. Like, the fine-tuning argument, is based on the complete and utter ignorance of the topic at hand.
Any holes in it, you could use it to strain pasta. And that's if they use, like, one of the quote-unquote good versions of the argument. Because there are plenty more just completely crap versions that aren't just flawed, but out and out ridiculous.
The precise constants and quantities in our cosmos, such as the gravitational constant and the speed of light, are so finely tuned that even a slight variation could make life impossible.
Which you wouldn't be saying if that was the case. The only reason you can say, personally, that the laws of physics are so fine-tuned is because they are the way that they are. Like, it's not a compelling argument because coincidences are a thing.
This precision suggests the work of an intelligent designer.
Right, so yeah, it is one of the shittier ones, and there are just so many problems. I'm just gonna go with one of my favorite rebuttals, especially when it comes to an all-powerful design. Why? Why does it need to be fine-tuned at all? As a human, say they build a machine that balances on top of a point and they want it to remain there. Yeah, they're going to have to make sure that the thing is well designed enough that it isn't just going to fall down, because they need to sleep and do other things, and frankly don't want to spend all day keeping an eye on this pointless contraption that what's it even for, really? But say they had the god powers, well then they don't have to do shit. They could just make that thing do the spin forever without even thinking about it. It doesn't have to make any sense. It doesn't have to make anything. It will just work because they want it to, even if they made it in the most terrible way that they possibly could. In this...
Okay, so I don't like this analogy, so I'm gonna substitute it for my own explanation. It's not that the laws of physics are finely tuned to the universe. It's that the laws of physics existed and then the universe was morphed accordingly. Like, it's not the laws of physics. The laws of physics were constant. The universe just exists around those laws. So to say that the laws are fine-tuned because the sun rotates around the earth rotates around the sun and just the zone that's habitable, no. The earth rotates around the sun in just the zone that's habitable because that's the only way it could have existed with the way that the laws of the universe are. It's like, once you understand what I'm saying here, the fine-tuning argument, when referring to the universe itself and the laws of physics, just makes no fucking sense.
In this regard, even if you want to argue that fine-tuning proves a higher power, it could only go so far as one that can't keep control of it forever. Okay, probably not a god. And that's not even one of the better arguments against it. But there are just so many. Great start.
All right, so listen up. State Farm was trying to charge me $197 for car insurance. No, thank you.
Coming in at number 9 is The Complexity of Life.
Damn it, from bad to worse. I'm almost impressed. The
I think it goes without saying, but YouTube's ads, I am not sponsored by those. I don't get money off those. So they can get the fuck off my screen. Yeah, once YouTube actually fucking monetizes my videos, maybe I'll give a fuck about their ads. But at this point in time, they're bullshit.
Complexity of Life is a major oof, especially when you are, again, more than likely claiming an all-power boy. The whole complexity of life thing does not prove, well, anything really. And we have an explanation for the complexity of life. It's called evolution, and explains rather nicely why critters are the ways that they are, including why things just happen to be complicated, no God required. But complexity or lack thereof, both of those could be answered with because that...
So, Sir Sick here is talking about the fine-tuning argument in reference to biology and as a rebuttal to evolution, as creationists so often like to use it as. The thing is that anybody who knows anything about biology and, like, any connected fields will tell you that there are absolutely useless pieces of the body. If the human body and all of the other creatures on this planet are so perfectly made, why do we have vestigial structures? And don't you do that thing where the fucking creationists will go, oh, well, we're finding more and more that the vestigial structures are actually useful in some way or another. No, there are still vestigial structures that have absolutely no use. I have a tendon, honestly, I don't even think it's on the other side of my arm. I don't think it's on, oh, is this it? Okay, I have it on both arms, but, there's a tendon that a lot of people have in their arm. It goes from your wrist to, I believe, your elbow, and it's so useless that if you ruin a tendon on a different part of your body, the doctors will take that tendon and put it there. It's basically just your body's spare tire. And don't say that God did that for a reason so that you'd have... If that were the case, why'd he make it so that tendons could be destroyed in the first place? That doesn't seem like perfect design to me. Does it to you? Secondly, there's the tailbone. That does absolutely nothing for us. In fact, it was actually detrimental to me because the tailbone is actually, like, really tied up with a lot of the nerves around your hips and your pelvis. And so if you bruise your tailbone, it makes it so that, like, you can, like, it is uncomfortable to sit for long periods of time. Now, that's the case for most people, obviously. I'm sure you've had a long car ride before where you've gone and your ass was numb by the end of it. But it can actually be much worse if you bruise your tailbone like I did.
That's how God did it.
The intricate details of biological systems, from the DNA double helix to the functionality of cells, point towards intelligent design.
That is the other thing. Complexity is not
No, it doesn't.
the same thing as competent. You can design something outrageously complex with little wheels and knobs and all sorts of spinning doodads. But if its job is to be the cork for a bottle of precious whiskey, all that extra crap isn't going to make it better at that job.
Which is also another very common rebuttal to the fine-tuning argument that is often used alongside the argument of vestigial structures exist.
Will simply make it unnecessarily complex at best and outright detrimental to its functioning at most likely, no matter how fucking awesome it looks. Shit.
The idea that such complexity arose purely by chance is a significant leap.
Actually, makes more sense if that's the case. Because basically mutation is just throw everything against the wall and see what sticks. That's basically what mutation and natural selection are. Sometimes things that aren't necessary still stick. So now you've got a whole bunch of shit that is there for absolutely no reason.
But it didn't happen by chance in the scientific view. But you know what is a random chance thing happening for no reason? A god deciding to one day do an everything after an infinite amount of not doing that. That shit is quite the leap.
Number 8 is the moral argument.
Did you know that the moral argument is...
I don't know what Sir Sick is going to say here, but the moral argument is absolute horseshit. Because morals are subjective down to the individual. There are absolutely no morals that are exactly the same over any demographic of people. Because they're entirely subjective.
Actually incredibly immoral. Yeah, you weren't expecting that.
Oh, so I want to clarify that does not mean that morals are useless. Morals exist because the tribal part of your brain goes, oh shit, maybe I shouldn't bite the hand that feeds. Maybe I should help these people out so that they can help me out in the future and we can form a tribe and we can, like, actually coexist and we're better that way. Like, that is from a very old part of your brain. Not the oldest, but morals happened from evolution. Morals are an evolutionary trait.
Were you? Well, you see, the moral argument is immoral because it's so bad that it causes me physical pain every time it's brought up, as if it isn't a big pile of absolutely fucking nothing. And since the only true morality is anything that affects me because of how important I am, it is literally the most immoral...
He jokes about that, but that is literally what morals are. Morals are a self-preservation technique. That's all they are. So your morals are going to be exactly what your subconscious thinks you need to survive right now.
moral thing that it could be.
That's also why moral codes don't typically stand up in dire situations.
Instance of objective moral values, such as the inherent wrongness of murder and the virtue of love, suggests a moral...
Okay, again, the inherent wrongness, quote, wrongness of murder is entirely subjective. Because do you really think that people went out and murdered people, because those people exist. Murderers do exist. Do you really think that they're going out and doing that when they think what they're doing is wrong? I guarantee you it is not. I guarantee you they are not. Because morals are subjective, including the idea that murder is bad. Do you really think that we'd need to have laws saying don't murder people if everyone inherently thought murder was so bad you shouldn't do it? We wouldn't need the law because no one would be doing it.
Moral lawgiver.
The existence of objective moral values. Existence, Christ. This is worse than most. God damn. Although, I don't know why I am surprised. Right, you have to prove that, you know. And no, you can't just say, but the inherent wrongness of murder. First of all, generally speaking, murder is a legal term. It has a lot of potential specifics depending on whatever country's laws we are talking about. But as a rule, it tends to...
Subjective. Now, one could make the argument that there are objective morals, and those are morals that may be a lot more common. Like murder is bad is a good example of one. But you have to understand that what you currently may think are objective morals, you only think that because everybody else thinks that. And at the end of the day, the right and wrong are typically decided, quote, decided by the large majority. They're decided by the majority. And so the thing is that what you think is an objective moral is you only think that because our society, like the mass majority of people, also think that. But I guarantee you in other times, those, quote, objective morals are no longer objective. Take, how do I say this without getting a fucking strike on my channel? Okay. Think now. Right now, if a 27-year-old were to start dating a 14-year-old, everybody would call foul. Everybody would. But that's not so true when you go back 300 years, because 300 years ago, a 14-year-old may have been considered an adult, given whatever country you're in. That's the issue here, because you may think that that's an objective moral, but in different times, in different circumstances, morals change.
To be unlawful killing. And frankly, there are a ton of possible things that could justify something that is still considered unlawful in terms of killing, in not only self-defense but also various types of euthanasia. And the fact that I even have to bring any of it up kind of proves the point that it's not as black and white as you need it to be for this shit point. And
I said this in a comment on my personal use YouTube, but I think that it applies here. Christians and almost all of the older religions take black and white measures when most of the time there's only gray involved. Black and white aren't even in the picture, but there's a shit ton of gray. And that's pretty much the issue with religion in this era, is that the older religions do not have the capabilities to adapt. And the only way that they do adapt is if cowards decide they're gonna pick and choose what they believe from a religion that explicitly states these black and white measures in black and white solutions to very, very gray problems.
The virtue of love? Yeah, because there has never been a case where loving someone has led to poor outcomes. Literally not thousands of stories about that. No.
Without a higher power, these values would be subjective and relative.
Which they are. Haha, thank you for disproving God with your incredibly lazy and poorly thought out argumentation. Absolutely brilliant.
At number 7, we have the argument from consciousness.
Oh, I know this one. When I drink enough whiskey and lose consciousness, that proves that whiskey is an all-powerful being and therefore must be God. And I'm happy with that. I mean,
I'm all for worshipping whiskey. I just have to put it slightly below Freya. But I'm sure whiskey is a god somewhere out there.
Really, is there anything
I don't drink, but I mean...
it can't do? I am pretty sure I saw it change a car's tire one time. Very impressive.
Human consciousness and self-awareness are profound mysteries.
Yes and no. I mean,
like what Sir Six said here, yes and no. We're figuring out more and more as time goes on. It'll probably take another half a fucking century, at best, to figure out most of the stuff with that. But we know that emotions and stuff like that are caused by chemicals. We know that, like, consciousness is kind of real, but kind of not at the same time. It's a very tricky subject.
we don't know every last bit of how they work, but to act as if we know nothing about them and that we aren't on our way to learning a hell of a lot more, if not everything about them, is just not true. And with the advancement in how certain computer programs work in ways that we cannot understand, to say that it requires a god to make something that is potentially impossible to figure out is just not true.
My name is Eugene Vindman. Standing up to Trump cost me my career. I'm running for Congress to stand up to the MAGA Republicans.
The ability to think, reason, and feel points towards a higher, conscious source.
No, it points towards that people can do that. That's about it. It doesn't really point towards anything. You are just presuming.
Yeah, it doesn't point towards anything. This is, oh fuck, what's it called? It's been so long since somebody has given such a blatant example of it, I forgot what it's called. Oh, God of the Gaps. That's a blatant God of the Gaps argument. Dude says, we don't know how this works, but it points towards God. Trust me, bro. Like, no.
Assuming that it does because you want it to. But just because you want something to say, my thing am true, just doesn't make it so.
Number 6 is the historical evidence for Jesus Christ.
Okay, now you are going to have to be a...
I've said this time and time again. I do not doubt that Jesus Christ existed. What I do doubt is the validity of what is stated to happen in the Bible. It is entirely possible that Jesus was a real person. But I also think it's also equally possible that Jesus was just a fucking narcissist.
A little bit more specific, because, well, do you mean some guy called Jesus, or something pretty close to that existed in the way back when times? Or do you mean the biblical Jesus with all of his magic tricks and powers and all that shit? Because one of those I will accept that there's evidence for, and one of them is a load of bullshit from the Bible.
The life, death, and resurrection of Jesus are well-documented historical events.
No, they're not. No, they are not. The resurrection of Jesus almost purely exists in the Bible. And there is absolutely no proof that the Bible is correct about that.
Assuming that the guy in the books was a real person, well, you have to prove more than just a real person existed. Lots of people existed. But just because I wrote a book about Super Caesar, the Emperor of Rome with the ability to fly and fire knives out of his back, doesn't mean that the guy we have evidence for, who also had a very stabby back, had the attributes I have applied to him. So just because a book is based on someone doesn't mean the speeds and feat attributed to them are...
Okay, so this was something stated by Mini Minuteman in response to somebody claiming that Atlantis had digital archives, but it fits here very well. And I've used this specific point in response to the validity of the claims made in the Bible before, but I want to make it again because I want to make sure that this video can stand alone on its own. But humans love to embellish stories, and the writing of the actual New Testament is only dated to like the first, or like the late first to early 2nd century. And you need to understand that that's a lot of years for people to embellish the story of Jesus. That is so many years of the story passing by word of mouth to word of mouth to word of mouth. And the thing is that the New Testament specifically was written and compiled 100 years later. So, like, how the fuck did the people in question, the people who the books are named after, when exactly did they write that? Because chances are they didn't. Chances are they didn't. So let that sink in for a couple of seconds. Who really wrote and compiled the New Testament? And could it really have been accurate down to the absolute minute details from the story being passed by word of mouth through probably like 3 to 4 generations.
Are true. You have to prove them all on their own.
The impact of his life on the world and the transformation of his followers add weight to the claim of his divine nature.
Not really. They prove that a religion happened, and depending.
Yeah, they prove that the people in question believed it. And not even that, though. Like I said, we don't know that and there's like substantial evidence that this isn't the case, but we don't know if the actual people who met Jesus actually, like, wrote the New Testament. That's the issue here.
Depending on what you mean by transformation and followers, well, again, that could just be shit that is made up, or could mean, you know, a religion happened, because religions make people change their lives in all sorts of ways. I mean, are the ones that aren't yours also true? I would imagine you would say no, of course not. Same apples. Shit, I mean applies. There are no apples. No, go away, they're mine.
At number 5, fulfilled prophecies in religious texts offer compelling evidence.
No, they do not. They simply do not. They just don't. Because you don't know if the people writing those documents were making a work of fiction or if they were actually recording real events. Or if they even knew what was happening. Like if they saw it with their own eyes.
No.
Many events foretold in these scriptures have come to pass, suggesting divine foreknowledge.
Right, there's 3 versions of that. They can be shit that was predicted in the book, though, but also came.
Okay, so I believe the point here is old like scripture and other documents made predictions that came true, and that could only have happened through divine intervention or some shit. But humans are really fucking predictable, like shamefully predictable. And all it really takes is an expert in being able to predict that shit to be able to predict, hey, humans are probably going to be dicks to each other in the future.
And quote unquote true in the book, though. That doesn't count. And then there's the vaguest vagues of the vagaries that kind of sort of sound like things that have happened, maybe, but also sound like a million other possible events. And finally, predicting things that happen all the time, like saying, an empire will fall. Well, no shit. That's what they do. A bunch of them have risen and fallen before and since any such prediction was made. It's like
Not to mention, there's the one where it predicts that humanity will worship other idols, and it's like, dude, that had been continuously happening before, during, and after, consistently, for thousands of years. It's not really much of a prediction if it's been continuously happening.
that I'm going to be an asshole, and then saying that you're a wizard because you totally knew I was going to call you a fuck knuckle, probably.
Like, a good number of the like signs that the rapture is coming are just things that have been happening for the last thousands of years. It's really dumb because you see every like 10 years you get a wave of dumbasses that are like, look what's happening in the world, the rapture is coming, and it's like, dude, shut up. You did this same shit 10 years ago. You did the same shit 10 years before that. Shut the fuck up. You've been wrong every time.
Probably.
Number 4 is the argument from design.
Wait.
Wait. Didn't he already fucking say this one? You don't get to just run out of proofs that God exists and just copy and paste one. That's not how this works.
Is this just not going to be the fine-tuning argument and that complexity argument? Again, all rolled up into one. Served up on a bed of stupid. Taking all bets, I guess.
The complexity and order of the universe, from the laws of physics to the beauty of nature.
No, yeah, it's literally the same fucking argument,
I already fucking debunked this. I'm not doing it again.
except let's chuck in "it's pretty" on top. And no, same shit applies to this one exactly. The appearance of design is not the same thing as design, as has been shown to be the case and can be demonstrated in other ways. My personal example is pouring sand to form a hill.
Something that Forrest Valkai said, which struck a chord with me, when an idiot was saying this one to him on one of the call-in shows, was that creationists don't have the, like, they can't really prove that something was, now I may be butchering this argument, but it makes sense to me the way that I'm explaining it, but theists can't, or creationists specifically, can't really prove that something is designed because they don't have the luxury of looking at something that isn't designed and comparing the two, because they think that everything was designed. Which, it made sense to me at the time. I'm not sure if it makes sense to you right now. But basically the core of that is, we know the traits of something that isn't designed, and how can you know the traits of something that is designed if you have no, if something that isn't designed doesn't exist? You know? Like, how do you figure out, like, it makes a lot of sense when he says it. I'm doing a really poor job of explaining it. I'm just gonna continue the video.
Well, that is about as designed as anything else in nature. That is to say, it isn't. It forms.
Point towards an intelligent designer.
Okay, I will. There's one right now. Everyone, go get him and make him explain why he created humans to be so shit. Also, beat him up and then...
Okay, so they showed a bear and an owl. I'm just gonna real quick... Oh, that's not what I wanted. Just gonna yoink this over here. Oh, shit. Oh, there we go. Let's see. Bear. Oh, fuck. Shit. Bear. Oh, come on. Why? Okay. Bear. And I've got caps lock on. Bear vestigial structures. Lacrimal bone. I don't know what the fuck that is. Vestigial premolars. small white dot behind the upper canine. This tooth forms layers that resemble tree rings. A polar bear's age can be determined by counting the layers. Ooh, that's really cool. Whiskers. Bears have hairs on their snouts, but these hairs are not true whiskers because they do not have sensory ability to send messages to the brain. So basically, they just got hair on the front of their face that serves no purpose. That's very interesting. Let's go. Owl. Vestigial structures are yada yada yada. Claws. Great gray owls have claws that don't seem to help young birds grip branches, suggesting their vestigial organs. I don't think organs is the right word. I'm pretty sure it's vestigial structures from the past. Interesting. Noses. Young great gray owls have large bulbous noses because they lack the adult feather bristles that hide the cere from view. Birds of prey like owls. Small vestigial. I don't know most of these words, but the point is that both those animals have vestigial structures, which direct counter to the fine-tuning argument.
Check his pockets for precious loot, or loots, or various other stringed instruments.
Oh my gosh, this is so comfortable.
Nobody
My husband used to come.
The intricate design in nature is often mirrored in human creations, which are products of intelligent minds.
For God's sake, come on. How is this not obvious? You know humans, right? Do you know one of the things they look at when they're trying to get ideas? Fucking nature. So yeah, they're mirrored because they are basically fucking copying the thing. That shit didn't happen by magic, for Christ's non-existent sake. And the amount of shit that we make that can do things way better than anything in nature. Weirdly enough, I can't remember ever seeing one of these wandering around the forest. Can you?
At number 3, personal experiences of the divine play a significant role.
Okay. So, the reason why I believe in the goddess Freya is because of a personal experience. But I also understand that personal experiences are not good enough for other people because they most likely will never experience exactly what you did. And a lot of the time, things like personal experiences can easily be chalked up as literally the person was looking to find a personal, out-of-body experience, and their subconscious made it up for them. Personal experiences are not valid proof of your religion being right.
Yep, they play a significant role in why I don't buy any of this shit. Because none of them can ever be proven to have actually happened beyond the insides of people's heads. Personal experience is about as unconvincing as you can get. Unless if I tell you God spoke to me and told me he isn't real. You don't believe in him anymore, right? But what about my personal experience?
Millions of people across cultures and history report encounters with a higher power, suggesting a universal truth.
Okay, that is...
No. They record all sorts of shit, from vague, random, I felt it, to super hyper uber specific shit that if it were the case that it was real, like, dude, you wouldn't have that much detail for it. And it's like, yeah, people claim to have those experiences, but I guarantee you most of them are either lies or just some random made up bullshit.
It's fair, it does suggest a universal truth. Humans are so full of shit.
Number 2 is the cosmological argument. Everything that begins to exist has a cause. The universe itself began to exist and thus must have a cause, which may...
Yeah, but that... Dude. Just because something has a cause does not mean that that cause was directly instigated by a person. There's a cause for a planet falling into a black hole. The cause is because it happened to be so close that the gravitational pull brought it into the black hole. There's no reason for there to be anybody saying there was intelligence involved. There's no reason for that.
Many argue is God.
Yep, and they do so with absolutely no evidence. In either that the universe has a beginning, we literally don't know, that's an assumption based on how things work inside the universe, and the God bit is just nothing. If there's a thing that creates universes, we have no idea what that is or why it does fucking anything. And to assume that your big book of bullshit is correct based on literally...
Yeah, so... I think what Sir Six said earlier was actually a very good point, is that the only reason we think there was a start to the universe is from what we've observed inside of that of said universe. It is entirely possible that the universe has always existed, and there was no real cause to it. That is entirely possible. The other thing is that cause and effect are things that exist inside of the universe, so they can't necessarily be applied to when a universe doesn't fucking exist. The universe could have started because it always was necessary that it needed to start without any real cause.
Nothing? That is nonsense.
And finally, at number 1, we have the ontological argument.
And of course we're going out on a low note. Okay, go for it.
This philosophical reasoning states that if we can conceive of a greatest possible being, then it must exist in reality.
No. How dare you call that philosophy? How dare you? Because philosophy is my fucking jam. I fucking love that shit. That's not philosophy. That's just fucking assumptions based on nothing. Get the fuck out of here with that.
Yeah, it's such a shit argument that it's hard to know where to start. But basically, something that is the best thing could only be the best thing if it existed, so it must exist. To say that there's some flaws with that reasoning is like saying that my greenhouse has a lot of windows.
This argument, while complex, is a core...
Did you just fucking say it was complex? God, this guy's a fucking moron. Okay. Just because you can think it up does not mean it's real. That's basically what he said. Because we can imagine a creator, it must be real. Absolutely the fuck not. Just because somebody thought up comic books and the stories inside them does not mean that the stories inside them are real. Fiction exists. This is completely throwing out the fact that fiction exists.
Cornerstone of many theological discussions. These are just some of the many arguments and proofs that people present for the existence of God.
Oh, and he didn't even go into why. Well, if you aren't going to make a good point about it, neither am I. Bye!
Wait, before you go, I have something.
That was the stupidest, most absolutely brain dead end to a series of arguments I have ever heard. Like, hands down, that was the absolute worst closer ever. Anyways, go subscribe to Sir Sick. I don't care if you subscribe here, but at least go subscribe to this handsome Eldritch Fiend. But anyways, see ya.